Hey everybody, welcome to the Rundown Live. I'm your host, Justin Pugliese, and today on the show we'll have Kelsey Hunter. She was episode 18 and I interviewed her last year, so it'll be fun to catch up with her and see how she's doing. We started doing these lives because, we're all cooped up at home and our training has changed, our goals have changed, so wanted to touch base with former guests to see what's going on in their lives and how they're coping with everything. So without further ado, here's my interview with Kelsey. Hey Kels,
Hey, how are you?
good you?
Good. This is fun.
Yeah, welcome to the Rundown. I'm your host, Justin Pugliese, and today we have Kelsey Hunter on the show, doing our lives now. So we got some people joining in now. I'm wearing all my Canada gear for you because I know your pops coaches. I got my new CLE Canada hat right
Oh,
there. So yeah, I got all my,
I've got,
yeah,
I'm repping. Well, no, I lost it. Sorry.
it's okay. No
What
worries.
happens when I'm doing stuff here?
No
All right.
worries.
There we go.
Multitasking. It's all
Perfect.
good. Yeah. So welcome. So how have things been for you since our interview?
Since our interview, which was like last April, May, I think it came out in May.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we're, like had a great year. Ran my first marathon in the fall, um, in Toronto. Qualified for Boston, which was really exciting. So Boston 2021, which hopefully will happen.
Right.
Um, I think obviously with the way things are going, there's a lot of uncertainty, but I think we're all hoping at least next spring we can be assured of some races being on the schedule.
Right.
Um, so yeah, and then I got injured after the marathon. I think my body was not used to, I guess, basically going from being a sprint and Olympic distance triathlete to being a marathoner. Just some imbalances, kind of, yeah, they came out in full force. So I spent the past couple of months totally off from running for like 6 weeks, essentially, in February and March. And yeah, well, February, and just kind of getting back to it in March. So excited to be back running all the time now.
Yeah. And how was it for you going through that injury period? I know it's like never easy, but I remember you telling me you were told to basically stay, not running at all. So how does that play with your mental, especially coming off such a high of, qualifying for Boston and stuff?
Yeah, it was really challenging because I'd had such a great fall and the build went so well and the race itself went so well. And I was really excited because the plan was to switch back to triathlon this year and do at least one half Ironman this summer. So I was excited to like incorporate swimming and biking back in after essentially just running last year.
Right.
So the injury was essentially like turf toe, so tendonitis in my big toe, which is hilarious, but very debilitating apparently. So they had told me to be very, very conservative. So no running, no biking, no swimming even. Um, so I did a lot of strength training while I was off, but that was kind of it, and kind of mostly upper body stuff. A little bit of yoga, lots of mobility, tons of chiro exercises
Yeah.
and PT exercises. But it was, I mean, I think it was more mentally challenging before I was told to stop. And then again, once I started running again. So before I stopped, I was kind of trying to muddle through workouts and muddle through my training. And it just wasn't going well. And I was having to cut runs short and cut workouts short, or like not do them to my full ability. And I was looking at people around me kind of really getting back into training, and lots of people that I run with were kind of had big spring races on the calendar. So it was, for me, like for the first time in a long time, I was doing that like comparison game where I was looking around and I was like, oh, like I just want to run, like what, this dumb injury, like I can't do what I want to do. But once I just kind of accepted the fact that, okay, I'm going to take time off and just like fully immerse myself in doing that so that I could ensure that I could come back as quickly as I could. So that was helpful. But then when I did start to come back, it was again challenging because, you want to like get back out there as quickly as you can, but it's like, no, walk, run, ease into it. You've got to like take your time and still keep up those PT exercises, still keep up the strength. And um, yeah, so it's exciting now that like I don't have to walk, run. I can just run. And this week I get to do my first speed work.
Nice.
Really.
Cool. And is it hard? Do you still maintain those good habits, those rehab habits, even now through like now that you're back? Is there certain things that you like? It's like a minimum.
I've been trying really hard to kind of keep them up. Like every day doing like toe yoga and trying to incorporate some mobility as much as I can, really warming up a lot before I go out for a run to make sure like everything's activated. Um, and just yeah, trying to stay up on top of it. I think that's really important for us to all remember right now because you know our chiros and athletic therapists and physical therapists and massage therapists aren't really as accessible to us. So like injury prevention, I think is so key right now.
Mm.
Obviously, like a lot of them are trying to do virtual consults and that type of thing, but it's like not the same as getting like manual therapy. So trying to really stay on top of things so that I don't get back in a hole of injury.
Yeah, exactly. And what would you say to the people like? Did you recognize that this was coming? Did you was it something that earlier on you could have said like, oh, that's not right. Maybe I step back for a week now, and then I don't have to be off for a week, 4 weeks later, kind of thing? Or like, would you say that yeah, did you push through some pain?
I definitely pushed through some pain. Yeah, I was just like feeling excited, be especially like I think things felt pretty good in December. It was like every once in a while there would be some pain. And
Mhm.
so, I'd have enough time off between my workouts that like it would go away and I'd feel fine. And so I'd run again. But in January, I think when I got back to going to work and like being at work all day, wearing shoes that weren't like super supportive, and then it got to the point where like I would do a run and it would hurt all day long the next day. And it's like, oh, this is not good. So
Yeah.
definitely like if you if you feel any sort of anything coming on right now, just take a couple of days off. As we know, there are no races on the horizon.
Yeah.
There's lots of time right now. Take this time if you need to take care of your body and prevent being off for a long time. Because
Yeah.
I feel so unfit right now after having like basically zero cardio for 6 weeks. Um, like it's coming back is a little bit more challenging when you have to take that amount of time off versus
It's like
like
you remember what it's like to be a beginner runner again, like when you first started, kind of thing. Um, it's crazy. But can you talk about like at the time of our interview, we spoke like you said like in last May or April, and then so your episode number 18 for anybody that hasn't listened to your podcast interview, it was super interesting. And actually, you came back and you interviewed me for the 1 year anniversary, which was like episode 28 or something like that. I know I've lost track now. We're at 41, so I'm like super pumped about it. Can you talk about at that point you hadn't ran your, we were talking about, possibly qualifying for Boston and, running your first marathon, coming from a triathlon background. Like, can you talk about that journey and like maybe things you did to kind of progress into like a true runner and kind of put the triathlon to the side? Because that's kind of like what I did too. So, just kind of like what your process was in that and how you got to Toronto and how it all went.
Um, I'll talk a little bit about the running part, but I'll talk about the other stuff too, because I think the other stuff for me was more important than the
Yeah.
running. Um, so I guess last year, I knew from the very beginning of the year, so January 2019, I knew that my big goal for the year was to do do Toronto and hopefully qualify for Boston. So at that point, I was like fully committed to this goal. Um, so I really slowly started to build up. I coached myself through May, through Ottawa Race Weekend, where I ran the half marathon, and just like a very gradual progression. Um, trying to be really smart about it. I got to May though, and I realized that I needed some guidance for the marathon. And at that point, kind of mid-May, Dylan Wykes, who is one of the head coaches and founders of Mile to Marathon, he had moved to Ottawa, and so in May he kicked off the Ottawa chapter of Mile to Marathon. And so I started running with that group, and Dylan and I agreed that starting in June, he would be my coach and coach me through the marathon. And he's still my coach because we had a great experience together, and he's pretty awesome. So, um, again, just like we were really smart. We built the plan so that I'd be ready for the marathon, but not trying to go too crazy. Like I came from a background where I was running maybe like 25 to 30K a week. So coming from there, obviously like not having to do the bike and swim gave me a lot more time to run, but just trying not to like overload it and go too much too soon. I didn't need to run 100K a week or more. So I was running at the peak like 80K a week, I think, were my highest. But yeah, just a nice slow build. And then running with the group was like so crucial for me. It was so helpful to have people around to do workouts with. And then we also incorporated a group long run through the summer, which was like so beneficial, just to have people to share that experience. And Dylan like biking around with our water bottles and our
Oh, nice.
fuel in his like kids bike trailer. So that was it was fun, and it just made the whole experience so much more enjoyable. So yeah, nice gradual build in terms of the running part, and then having a community to run with, where I think the key is there. And then otherwise, I kind of knew that the marathon is like much more of a mental challenge than a physical one, I think. Obviously, like if you put the training in, you put the miles in, you can complete the distance, but like there are so many potential things that will come up on the day that you really have to like get your head in the game. So I spent a lot of time last year reading like any book I could get my hands on in terms of like mental performance. Some of my favorites like Peak Performance and What I Think About When I'm Running. Dina Castor's book is really, really good one as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've read probably like half a dozen or more books on mental training and tried to put those practices into place. I started meditating. And then I really focused on just like high quality sleep, making sure I was getting a lot of sleep and recovery for those long training weeks. And yeah, nutrition, all of those little things that kind of go into it, just to, it's the marathons. Yeah, it's a running race, but there are so many other factors that you need to get right to have a good day. So tried to focus on the details as well.
What was something that you thought you knew before you had a coach that then when you got a coach you realized like how different it actually was, or like what the actual real way to do it was?
I've had lots of coaches through the years, and I guess I've learned different things from all of them.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think like obviously Dylan knows what he's doing when it comes to the marathon, like casual, like Olympian there.
Yeah.
So he was
NK
definitely
champ
someone
last
I
year.
was like, yeah, like I trusted, like I just like really just trusting the process and like trusting what he was having me do, and knowing that like if I did it, I should be fine. And I think just always like having a sounding board and having someone who's like paying attention to the trends and like listening, like picking up those signals that you're giving. Like there were days where and weeks and times where I was just like really frustrated or like feeling like mentally like blocked by all the training, and he was able to like kind of see those instances and see those trends developing and like figure out ways to help me manage through those. So I think
Yeah.
that's when it, like, for me, that's the benefit of having a coach, is like when you're in the middle of it, you don't necessarily see those things yourself, and it's hard to recognize those signs, like, oh, I'm like overly tired, or oh, like I need to back it off this week, or things like that. Like we tend to push through, I think, when we maybe should be taking a little bit of a break. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was helpful.
Cool. Very cool. Well, very proud of you. Congratulations on the result. Like, unbelievable. I think didn't you do the Army run in Ottawa just before as a little tester to kind of give yourself an idea? Yeah.
And yeah, that was great too, because I mean, I'd had a really terrible race at the Ottawa race weekend, like a really, really bad day. It was miserable. I did not have fun.
Hmm.
And so I had this like mental block going into Army Run, where it's like, I don't even know if, like, I was afraid that I was going to have the same type of day I'd had in May, and like didn't want to do the race. And I was like, Dylan, like, I am so anxious about this. Like, I don't want to run this race. And like, because I was worried that it would set me back almost, like in the mental training I'd been doing,
Right.
and kind of make me second guess like where I was and whether or not I was going to be prepared for Toronto. And so he like totally just, he was like, you know what, Kelsey, like, that's okay. Like, here's the plan. We're just going to run it marathon pace. Don't worry about running it like it's a half marathon. But if you're feeling good, like in the, back half, back third of the race, like let loose, like go for it.
Mm.
So I ran like super conservatively in the first probably like, I don't know, like 12K of the race. And then it's like, oh, I'm actually feeling really good. And I benefited from the fact that like I live pretty close to the course, and it was a pretty hilly course. A lot of people weren't super pumped on the new course for Army Run, because it's definitely not flat. But it happens to be roads that I run all the time. So I was like, hey, I got this. Like, I know how to run this hill. Like, so I ended up PBing in that, which was a huge boost in confidence, especially after going into it kind of feeling like, well,
Nice.
this is going to be a disaster. And I was nervous. So, but in the end, it was not a disaster at all.
Awesome. Good for you. That's great. I'm so happy to hear that you put such good work into it. I remember you being worried, asking me about, marathons and stuff like that. And I'm happy you found a nice group and a great coach to kind of pull you through that, because I think it's super important. It's definitely a game changer if you can find the one that you connect with and have a good relationship with. It sounds like you've definitely found that. Kind of like where we are now, like with that being said, you have the group dynamic, everyone to lift each other up on a weekly basis for workouts and whatnot. How different are things now for you, and how are you doing on that level?
Yeah, I think we're like, a lot of us love running because we love the run community and we love our run friends so much.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the part that's been the most challenging, is not being able to go for a run with the normal group. But we've been doing a couple of things. The people I run with on Tuesdays, the Ottawa City Run Club, a bunch of us always go for a beer after our run. So we've kind of maintained like our Tuesday night beer date. It's just over Zoom
Yeah.
instead of at the brewery. So I think just like keeping some of those little routines in place, and like trying to connect with the people that you normally see on a regular basis has been super key for all of us. I know it's been really helpful for me. And then same thing with Mile to Marathon. We normally run on Saturday morning. Well, we Wednesday nights and Saturday mornings. So Saturday mornings we've been doing a Zoom chat with Dylan and whoever's available, and like bring your coffee and catch up on how the week has gone. So that's been helpful. Um, Again, just keeping that routine. And then the really fun thing that we've got going now in Ottawa is the Ottawa City Run Club put together a challenge for April. It's called the Team Solo Challenge,
Okay.
and I'm super excited for it. Basically, we formed teams of 3 to 5 people, you had to have like a mix of men and women, and suggested donation to the food bank. In the end, 32 teams signed up.
Wow.
And we raised $2,600 for food banks in Ottawa, which is like incredible. It just like blew me away how amazing the run community here is. I'm so proud of everyone, and so grateful to be part of it. So anyways, the challenge though is this weekend a 5K, next week a 10K, the third weekend a 1 mile race, and you run it alone, but you're part of a team. Emphasis on the alone, like if you're on a team with people you live with, you aren't even allowed to run with them. Just trying to like be good examples for the community of like, you can do this safely, like you can get out there and run safely right now. And I think for a lot of us, it's like kind of key to like be able to keep running as part of our mental health and just our normal routine. So anyways, so we've all got teams. We're all like doing the set race for the weekend. You can do it sometime between Saturday and Monday, and upload to Strava.
Too late? Is it too late to sign up?
I think it's too late. I think we had to sign up by Friday at noon. But it's super fun. Like it's so fun. My team is called Team Solo No FOMO. So we're running alone, but we're not missing out on anything. Other like people have come up with like really creative team names like Quarantine and the like isolate baby. I don't know, it's great. And it's just like brought people together, given people something to like motivate them. You know, lots of people were fit and ready to race, and there aren't any races. So just a fun way to bring the city together and the community, giving the community something to do. So
if you know anybody looking for a team, I'm ready to sign up. So like as a fill-in.
I should have messaged you. I think maybe Lawrence from Exact, he might have put a team together.
Nice.
Because I think he's been to Ottawa a couple of times for various races, and is a big friend of OCRC. So I think he's like on the internal Facebook page, so he might have gotten a team.
Cool. I'm in if you need somebody. On the other side, like I just spoke to somebody, actually one of our previous guests that I spoke to this week, Scott Sternthal, messaged me and he's like, hey, what do you think about doing a virtual race or something like that? So I think this is something that the run community is kind of catching on to, and like just wants to bring people together, and it's something that I might do for the rundown too, to kind of bond our listeners together. And it's kind of like you get people from different run groups too, so it might be interesting to kind of see how that goes. But it's all moving in the right direction to get us like out of the house and like thinking in that competitive way, because it's a bit sad, with everyone's sad that their races have been canceled, and it might be their first race season, it might be their 10th, it might, I think everybody on, no matter what level you're at, it's certainly disappointing, but we know that it's for the better of humanity at this point, and to kind of get a hold of what's going on. So I think that's great though.
I think too though, like it's also a good opportunity for people to like take a step back and like work on their base and just like chill and take care of themselves. And like most of us race so much and that we don't actually reset and do that like proper base building. So if there isn't a virtual race happening in your area, it's just a good time to get your aerobic fitness high, so that when we do get back to having races, you're ready to go.
And celebrate your fitness too. Like I'm before this, I was running maybe 3 days a week. I wasn't running a lot. I was, since New York, I've been like 30, 40K max. And I said to myself, like, okay, I don't do enough strength training. I don't do enough just base mileage anymore. Like since New York, I've kind of like taken a break, and I didn't have Boston to race or anything early that I was really focused on. So, but I've been running consistently now. It must be like, I forget, I've lost track of time, but maybe 2 weeks straight where I've ran every single day. And with a 10K in mind, but some days it's a 7, most days it's 10. But like I'm finding that that's a new discipline, and I definitely notice like my fitness is getting back up there, and my body's like responding well, just to like very easy mileage. And if I feel good, I go and like do some tempo work or some speed work or however I feel that day. It's just like testing myself, because I think so many people are like getting into running or been in it for a while. They're like, okay, how do I get faster or whatever? But I think the secret really is the base, easy running first, like a base volume with no workouts, really, just easy running. If your body can handle that, then you start to implement a workout here, a workout there, and see how you respond after that. But so many times it's like, oh, here's the plan. You got a tempo, speed, and mileage, you know? Whereas like, let's just do mileage, you know? So it's it's a good opportunity for everyone. You're also doing some other stuff like the journaling and like goal setting and all. Like I know you were doing a bunch of that other stuff too, like self-care, mental health. I know that you're big on that too. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's really interesting, especially in this time where we're at home a lot and maybe with our partners, or we're alone, we're not with our friends, we don't have those outlets, and kind of how that works to help you kind of personally get through all this.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we talked a bit about this on my episode. I've gone through a really stressful period of my life and learned a lot about stress management techniques because of that. And this has been a good reason to make sure I'm really staying on top of those as well. Um, so essentially, right now, we're obviously dealing with a situation that none of us have ever, like, this is unprecedented. We've never been here before. It's hard to know how to handle a situation like this. We're out of our normal routine, and there are just so many like factors that are causing us stress and anxiety. And that's like a lot of the time those are things that like we aren't really even noticing. We just kind of absorb this stress and anxiety through the media, through social media. We don't realize that the change in our routine affects us so much. So I think just like taking a step back and kind of realizing like, oh, like the reason my heart rate was so high on those runs last week was like because I'm just a little bit extra stressed right now. It's like not a fitness thing. It's like these are all things that our body just absorbs and kind of reacts to. And we're living in a state where we're kind of constantly stressed out. That can be one really bad for our mental health, but also really bad for our physical health as well. So stress suppresses immune function, and obviously right now we want to take care of ourselves as much as we can. So a couple of things. One is that sleep is super important, more than ever. So like if you don't have a good sleep routine, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you're having trouble staying asleep, kind of figuring out what works for you, whether that's, taking a bath or a shower before bed, drinking tea at night, shutting down your phone and your TV with, at least an hour before bed. Um, what else? I take magnesium and vitamin D before I go to
Right.
sleep. I find it's a really helpful combination for me. So like just getting on a sleep routine can be really helpful. The other thing is that when we wake up in the morning, our stress level is actually like our cortisol level is actually at its highest point of the day, which is kind of counterintuitive, but that's just sort of it like spikes to like wake us up and like get us going for the day. But then most of the time in regular life, we just have micro stresses build up like from the moment we wake up. So it's like trying to get to work on time, trying to like if you have kids, like get the kids ready for work for their day, dealing with traffic, dealing with public transit, dealing with commutes, thinking of like your mile long to-do list. So normally they're like building up, building up, building up as the day goes on. Right now, our routines are probably look very different, whether that's because you're trying to work from home or maybe like people who've lost their jobs, like life just looks different these days. And that's stressful as well. So I find having a routine in the morning is also a nice way to just like bring the anxiety level down, set the tone for the day. So for me, that looks like um, going out for a nice long walk with my dog, getting outside, getting some fresh air, sitting down when I come back and meditating while my coffee is like percolating.
Yeah.
And then if I have time and I'm not like rushing to like get my workday started, I'll like journal for a little bit, just like get some thoughts out. Try not to consume too much media in the morning, because obviously there's like everything in the media these days is nuts and just
Yeah.
like overwhelming, and social media is the same. So just trying to limit that as much as I can to make sure I'm starting my day like not already like up here stress
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
um,
Super tough.
yeah, so I find those are really helpful to like for training, because like obviously like running is a stress on the body as well, and that's where like maybe just running easy on days where you're not feeling great is a better option. I mean, obviously you could just skip your run completely if you're having a day where you're not feeling super into it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, like getting out the door and like getting some fresh air and moving your body is helpful as well. So it's just trying to find that balance between um, adding stress versus like helping to manage stress.
Right. Yeah. Very, very good tips. That's awesome. Yeah. It's like, I think we can all use a little bit more of that. And yeah, just, I think the challenge that I'm having is like trying to stay busy all the time. Like when it's a work week essentially, and I'm at home and I have breakfast and I sit at my desk for 8 hours, and whether I'm working or like working on personal stuff or whatever it is, like I always feel like I got to be doing something. So it's like, yeah, it's just something I'm facing right now. And often like that run helps break up my day, and it's like, okay, like it's okay to relax right now too, you don't, you know I find that's the most challenging thing. I don't want to be lazy. I want to come out ahead. I want to come out more knowledgeable. I want to do all these things, but it's like you can only do so much. And we're also, let's not lie to ourselves, we're facing something that's pretty dramatic right now. It's like it's severe. It's affecting a lot of people. It's not what we're used to in however long we've been alive. I'm 35 years old. I've never had to like force myself to stay indoors. Like it's unheard of. It's so very strange, and we have to allow ourselves the chance to absorb it and then deal with it however we deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like, you know, taking the pressure off ourselves, like lowering expectations, like we don't have to be super productive right now. You don't have to like, I've seen all these things like learn a new language or like paint a masterpiece or like, or like, go out and run your fastest 10K time ever. Like it's
Yeah.
okay to just get through the days. And I think for me, like the biggest part that's been like the biggest thing that's been helpful for me is just like processing my emotions, and not like trying to suppress them. Just like, okay, like today I'm like really sad. Today I'm feeling a lot of grief. Like I miss my friends. Like, and just letting myself feel that way for a little bit, versus being like, okay, you don't have time to feel your feelings right now.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful. The other thing too is just like trying to be in the moment as much as possible. Like the days where I felt the worst were the days where I was like thinking about the future and worried about how long is this going to last and like when is this going to be over, and like, but I was supposed to do XYZ in May, or what does this mean for my plans later in the summer? That's not helpful. The
Yeah.
days where I felt the best were the days where I'm like, okay, like what's under my control today? Like what can I accomplish today that's like reasonable and will make me feel like I did something? Um, you know, Sticking to those routines that I've come up with, I think that's like all we can do is like control what we can control and not worry too much about the rest. Yeah.
Are you using this time to work on anything in particular? Any side projects, like, or just that kind of going with the flow? And
I've been mostly like going with the flow, I have to admit. I am still working,
okay.
and I had a couple of days where I was like working at work, which is like fine for me to do. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like I have to caveat that, like, no, it's okay for me to go in. I'm also taking some online courses that I kind of had started before all of this. But I
Yeah.
admit I have not been very motivated to like actually do those.
Yeah.
So falling a little bit behind, but again, it's like not a big deal. So
Yeah. What's the first race you'd want to do if you could do one race tomorrow? Like if it was like the floodgates opened up and we were allowed to do what we normally do, what would be the first race you'd want?
I don't know. I think right now, like all my races up till July are canceled. So what I'm really hoping is that I get to run Chicago in October. I was really looking forward to that. I'm still really looking forward to that. Um, I caught the marathon bug like big time.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to run Chicago, a city that I lived in back in my university days, and conveniently, like I was supposed to be going to a wedding in Chicago in June, but they postponed to the weekend after the marathon. I'm like, oh, perfect. And I just
Oh,
like stay the whole week and get to
yeah.
hang out and visit with friends. So I'm hoping Chicago happens.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. I mean, at least you have a better chance, I think, with travel being halted and stuff. I can't imagine it's going to come back super fast, super quickly, even when this kind of goes away. But at least the U.S. border you might have a greatest chance there than flying overseas, kind of thing. But we'll see. We don't actually know that for sure. But like for me in Berlin, I even if it was still happening, I don't know if they would open it up to North America, let's say, or they might keep it. It's hard to say, but I can see that being a possibility.
Yeah, I'm definitely like, I am trying to manage expectations. Like, there's
Yeah.
so much uncertainty that, I just like enjoy what I'm doing now. If these races happen in the fall, like great, that'll be
Yeah.
exciting. Will I feel like super excited to be around 30,000 people? Not sure
Yeah.
actually at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Even right now, and I find like I'm running here in Ottawa and I like come across like large groups of people. I'm like, oh, what is happening?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think we'll just have to see how everything plays out and yeah,
Yeah.
take it as it comes.
Awesome. Well, Kelsey, thanks so much for sitting down with me today and chatting. It's always great to catch up with you. And I really wish, with Ottawa race weekend around the corner, that I was heading down there for that amazing weekend. It just shows me that it's something that I truly appreciated on a yearly basis. And hopefully, we'll get it back next year, and we can run together again soon.
Yeah. And nice to chat with you, Justin. Hope you guys are staying healthy and safe in Montreal and
Yeah,
say hi to our Montreal run friends.
I will for sure. Take care. That's all for now. Got to
Yeah.
run.
Okay, you too. All right.
Bye bye.